Lesson 2.5, Concept 2, using tables to generate different representations of data. So now, instead of starting with an equation and creating a table and a graph, I'm starting with a table, and I have to create my graph and my equation. All right? It's still pretty easy to go from a table into a graph, but it gets challenging when you're taking either a table or a graph and trying to make an equation out of it. Okay? So our first step when we have a table is to make our graph. All right? I've got my points. I go to -1, and then -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make a point there, 0 on my x, 1, 2 on my y, and I should label those. And then 1, +1, and 1, 2, +1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Generally for me, I like to start in the left hand, so the -x side, and go to the right. It's just the easiest way for me to do it, and it helps me make sure that I'm making my line or my graph kind of in a row, and I'm not losing track of points. So once you've got your points, you can draw a graph from it. I can add my line, and I can already see that every time I go over 1 on my x value, every time I increase by 1, my y goes up 3. You can see it's up 3 over 1. All right, so I can even extend that when I'm drawing my line. And if I start here, I'm still going to line everything up. Okay, and there's my line. All right, the next step is what we do to prepare for writing an equation. Okay, we're going to look for patterns in these values. And I already found some when I was looking at my graph. Right? I saw that every time I increased my x, and we can see that this goes up 1 each time, from -1 to 0 is 1, 0 to 1, 1 to 2. Each time I'm increasing by 1, and each time I increase my x by 1, I increase my y, in this case, by 3. -5 plus a +3 is -2. -2 plus 3 is a +1. And of course 1 plus 3 is 4. Okay? This is some of my most useful information. Okay? And it only is really useful if I have my x value changing by 1. So if you're given a table where your x values change by more than 1, this becomes less useful. Like if I had -1, 1, 3, and 7, this would not be a pattern the way it is here. Okay, but you can usually take the values, make your graph, and then find those values for each step of x. Right, each time x increases by 1. But in this case, I have my pattern. So I know it changes by 3 every time x goes up by 1. All right. That means that when I increase my x, my y increases by 3, which means I have to have a 3 as the number I'm multiplying by x. Okay, my equation is going to look like y equals, and then my rule over here, and because of this, I know that I'm going to have 3 next to my x. Okay. The next part I've got to figure out is what, if anything, is over here. Okay. If you don't have anything over, you don't have anything added or subtracted to your variable, then when I have x as 0, when I have a 0 in here, doesn't matter what I'm multiplying or dividing by it, my y should always be 0. So if you have an x value of 0 and a y value that's not 0, there is going to be something over here. Right? There's going to be some number that you're adding or subtracting. Okay? And the rule that you can see is if x is 0, this doesn't matter. My multiplication or division doesn't matter. So the only thing, excuse me, changing my y value is going to be this number. All right. So if y should be 0, but it is -2, that means -2 has to be here. I have to be subtracting by 2. All right. So then when x is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, minus 2, y equals -2 or -2.